SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Did you know Toyota of Brookhaven has sold more new vehicles the last 2 years than any other dealership in Southwest Mississippi? Come see why. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at ToyotaBrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota of Brookhaven, we deliver.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Middle of the week, Wednesday morning. Good morning to you and welcome. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. You can join the conversation this morning on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go. It's backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Lance, you're a movie guy. I am not really a movie guy, but will occasionally go to a movie. I don't. Maybe I saw a movie in the theater last year. I just can't tell you what it was. What about F1?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I'll get to the
seen
theater.
It yet?
No, I may go see it over the weekend though. That's like it seems to be one I'd want to watch in a theater. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but who was it the other day? One of the guys on the Richard Schwartz Power Hour said there was a little bit more rubbing in the F1 movie than what you would normally see in a F1 race. So it had a little NASCAR flair. But so some of it,
because F1 is more precision and speed, whereas NASCAR is a little
bit more brute force,
a little gritty,
a
little more,
But there was a little more contact, between the cars and the rubbing and all that than what would be normal. But outside of that, they said the movie was extremely well done. So I'm looking forward to it. Whenever you get a good review, from guys that go to the movies all the time. So, but last one I've seen was Ford versus Ferrari. That's the last one I saw in the theater. So.
There were two kind of semi-reviews that I saw that piqued my interest. One said this is a racing version of Top Gun. I was like, okay, well, I'm in on that.
Yeah.
There was one that said this is a little bit of a return to Hollywood making a movie that we actually like.
Not a remake.
Like, not just a remake and not, AI-generated science fiction characters that are floating around in this utopian jungle. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now.
Well, you're probably not far off.
Yeah, the other one was from Ryan McGee, who has covered racing for ESPN for a long, long, long time. And he said he loved it, and he said the only thing that he loved more than the movie was getting home to see the reactions of racing purists who were complaining about the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, good. Yeah. We can get on board with this. So I think it opened to $200 million film to make, and it opened to $140 million weekend. So I guess they'll make their money back.
Well, I mean, Brad Pitt's he's an entertaining actor. I mean, you don't have to like all the work he's done, but he's plays in movies generally that make money. So. I think whether it's his name that's attributed to it or the scripts that are thrown in front of him because he's Brad Pitt, but he doesn't take bad movies, so I can imagine this one's going to be pretty good.
Pretty talented.
He's not a Nicolas Cage, who takes any movie.
No, not at all. Going to be a warm day. It looks like for the most part we're going to be without rain today across the state of Mississippi. Tupelo, except for a few afternoon clouds. Going to be mainly sunny today, high of 91 with a little north breeze, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Canton, partly cloudy, high of 92 today. Breeze out of the north, 5 to 10 miles an hour. I'm curious. I'm not there. You are. When you walked out of the house, was it just a touch cooler, humidity down just a touch this morning?
It's still a little muggy. No. We had a absolute downpour yesterday here in central Mississippi, and it was
around rush hour last night, right?
And it kind of came back again, I think, after I dozed off because it was soaking wet again this morning. So, yeah, it was still a little muggy, you know. Yeah. But really damp. It'll burn off, though, in a little while as that sun cracks open.
Summerall, you got partly cloudy skies, stray shower or thunderstorm possible this afternoon, 93 for your high. Coastal Mississippi, how about Gulfport? Sunshine and clouds mixed, stray shower or thunderstorm is possible, 92 for the high with winds out of the west, northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. On this day in 1988, Thurgood Marshall was born, went on to be the first African-American Supreme Court justice, served from 1967 until 1991. He was born in Baltimore, Maryland. Medgar Evers was born on this day in 1925, American civil rights activist and NAACP official who was assassinated, born in Decatur, Mississippi. Speaking of racing, this day in 1937, American auto racer, 7-time NASCAR champion, 7-time winner of the Daytona 500, born in Level Cross, North Carolina. Do you know who I'm talking about? Mr. Richard Petty.
Yes, the greatest of all time.
Ooh, there's some that would push back on that.
I agree, that as time passed, great ones showed up. I mean, yeah, Jeff Gordon and others, but, didn't Petty do it first, though? With less tech and a lot less.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He did it when you were kind of gluing stuff back together again over there and making it all work.
Aren't there some 3 fans that would argue?
I think, Earnhart has got to be, one of the best 3 or 4 in ever. I don't know how you would, and NASCAR, it's hard to me to, now Gary could tell us what Gary's the expert resident.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
We have great conversations about this. So, I guess you had to love Earnhardt, but he seemed to get much more of a following as he seemed to soften a little bit over time, I don't know. Richard Petty was just a fan favorite from day one. And I don't know if that's part of why I think maybe he is the ultimate, because everybody loved him from the get-go, And Earnhardt had some of that, little kind of like a pirate out there a little bit. He had his own way of doing things, and it rubbed a lot of people wrong for a while. But great racer.
Larry David was born on this day in
Bernie
1947.
Sanders. The doppelganger of Bernie.
Seinfeld, screenwriter for Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, born in Brooklyn, New York. Was he with? He's not behind Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right?
That's DeVito.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Jose Canseco.
Big boy.
1964, 61 years old, Cuban-American Major League Baseball outfielder. He was the AL MVP in 1988, born in Havana, Cuba.
Do you remember him most for the steroids or the home run that bounced off his forehead?
Home run.
Yeah.
Bounced off his forehead. If I think just a little bit deeper, then I can get to the Bash Brothers in Oakland when he and McGuire were teammates. Mm-hmm. But the first thing that pops into my head is him in that Texas Rangers jersey with the ball bouncing off his head and over the outfield wall for a home run. That's the one for me.
Me too.
It's like Lindsay Lohan, 39 years old today. Talented actress. Another World, Freaky Friday, Mean Girls. Was it Harvey the Love Bug? I think she was in that.
Herbie the Love Bug?
Herbie, not Harvey. Herbie the Love Bug. Mm-hmm. I guess it was a remake. And then Parent Trap.
Yeah.
The remake of Parent Trap as well.
She played 2 parts in that?
That one has been watched in our house. She played both twins.
Yeah, the twins, yeah.
Yeah. Margot Robbie, 35 years old today. Probably most known for her role in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
Quite a role she played there. The Salvation Army was founded on this day in 1865. One-time Methodist Reformed Church minister William Booth and his wife Catherine founded the East London Christian Mission, now known as the Salvation Army. This day in 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan disappeared. They were flying over the Pacific Ocean en route to Howland Island. Noonan declared dead the following year. For Earhart, it was the year after that, 1939, when she was declared dead. The king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, on this day in 1956 at RCA Studio in New York, he can you imagine going to the studio and knocking out not one but two just mega hits in the same session? He did Hound Dog and Don't Be Cruel in the same session in 1956.
He's feeling good that day.
I would say so.
Bringing out the good stuff.
I don't know if Sam Walton was feeling good on this day in 1962, but it was the beginning. He opened his first Walmart in Rogers, Arkansas in 1962.
You think he was sitting there going, man, I've put everything I've got into this, and I just don't know if it's going to work. Yeah. Or he's like, man, I know I'm about to print some money. I've always been curious what he thought about that, like out of the gate. You know, did he have that confidence, or was he just like, we're going to have to check this out and see?
Drove that old beat-up pickup truck for a long time. Walmart executives, when they traveled, had to share a hotel room for a long time as well. 1964, U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act into law. Interestingly, it was the same day that Byron De La Beckwith was indicted on murder charges in the slaying of the aforementioned Medgar Evers. News headlines: the Senate got it done yesterday, 51-50. We'll talk about Trump's mega bill, the big, beautiful bill, when we come back with some news headlines. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. Good morning to you.
From the Venom.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hey, pretty baby, are you ready for me? Get your good rockin' daddy down from Tennessee. I'm just that off and bound for San Antonio with the radio blasting and the bird dog on.
Good morning to you. Thanks for making Mornings with Richard Cross part of your morning routine. If you're out the door on the way to work or wherever it is you're headed this morning, maybe you're starting the holiday weekend a little early today. A lot of folks making that extended weekend with a couple of days off. We are glad to be with you. They have not gone on vacation yet in Washington, D.C. under the I don't know if I'd say threat, but Donald Trump was pretty clear. He said to Congress, don't go home on vacation until this bill is passed. We'll see what leadership ultimately decides to do. Pretty significant day yesterday in the United States Senate. President Trump hailed the passage of the mammoth GOP budget bill as he said it offered something for everyone, but the Senate legislation has landed with a thud among House conservatives. So you know that the House, in May, passed their version of the big, beautiful bill, sent it to the Senate. The Senate has been wrangling it for the last few days. Maybe it was June when the House, I've lost exact track of the timeline. But it's gone back and forth, and there has been much debate on it. There is this timeline that has been put in place where July 4th is the day. President Trump wanted this bill signed, or wanted it on his desk so that he could sign it on or before Independence Day. I don't know if we're going to get there or not. Many members of the House of Representatives who have criticized the Senate's version of Trump's signature big, beautiful bill say that their options now seem too few to fix it as the House takes up the legislation today. Mike Johnson is expected to be fighting an uphill battle. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the representative from Georgia, the Republican from Georgia, predicted in an interview that today will be a poop show. She used a different word in the House. She was doing an interview with Steve Bannon and said, I cannot imagine they have the votes, talking about Mike Johnson and leadership on the House side. No way Johnson has the votes for this in the House. Andy Ogles, a Republican from Tennessee, has called the Senate bill a dud that guts key Trump provisions. Chip Roy, a Republican from Texas, said the Senate's treatment of clean energy tax credits is not aggressive enough and called it a deal killer of an already bad deal. Now, the flip side of that, there are a lot of people that have absolutely decried gutting the energy credits, including Elon Musk, talking about the future of energy for the United States and the world, getting rid of the solar and wind energy credits, green energy credits for this is a disaster for the United States. Ralph Norman, a Republican from South Carolina, suggested the House should send the bill back to the Senate and leave town. A Republican from California, David Valadeo, said in a social media post, "I've been clear from the start I will not support a final reconciliation bill that makes harmful cuts to Medicaid." Valadeo and Don Bacon, the Republican from Nebraska who is retiring, wrote to the Speaker back in April along with 10 other colleagues stating that they would not support any reconciliation legislation that cut Medicaid for their vulnerable constituents. Mike Johnson, in an interview with Fox, said, "I'm not happy with what the Senate did to our product. We understand this is the process. It goes back and forth, and we'll be working to get all of our members to yes." So if you think about the razor-thin margins on the votes, you had the House of Representatives that passed the big, beautiful bill, their version of it, by one vote. Yesterday, the Senate passed their version of the bill by one vote, 51-50. It was the Vice President, J.D. Vance, that cast the deciding vote. Let's see. What else did Mike Johnson say? "This is just a step in a sequence of events. We're intending to do more reconciliation work." Trump, the thing is, I think the president recognizes that this is a process. When the House passed their version of the bill, he talked about how great it was. The Senate's version of this bill is certainly different than the House version of the bill. And when they passed it yesterday, Trump talked about how great it was. And so here we are with two great versions of the bill, according to the president. And yet the two sides of Congress really disagree. So Lisa Murkowski was a holdout on the Senate. The senator from Alaska who has announced that she is running for office again, and it wasn't until she got some provisions included or taken out that she ultimately was the deciding vote. If Murkowski votes no, there's no way the Senate passes it yesterday. She ultimately voted yes. 3 GOP senators voted against the bill. Susan Collins of Maine, no shock there. Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Tom Tillis, the, I guess now outgoing senator from North Carolina, who has announced that he is not running for re-election. Collins said last month that she intends to seek a 6th term next year. Hasn't formally announced her plans going forward. Rand Paul's been a no for a long time. He said that he would not vote for a bill because he was not going to give authority for an additional $5 trillion of borrowing for our country. And then you got John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, who said, quote, "I've tried to indicate to the House when they were moving their bill over, we were going to be as conservative or more so than they are. And in the end, we did." This is one of those bills, Lance, where if you are a Republican, you say the bill has this, this, and this in it. And if you are a Democrat, you take almost the exact same 3 items that Republicans laud as being good for the United States, and you talk about how detrimental these things are to the United States.
Yeah, it's like when you were a kid and you got that football game that you sat down and you turned it on. It had the electrical thing and the metal floor, and it just everything ran around crazy, and you just hoped,
vibrating.
You just prayed that you got 4 yards or something. That's kind of the way this feels a little bit. It's chaos everywhere, and then you get a little first down. Maybe you complete a pass or something, but there's nothing big. It's a lot of back and forth and not a whole lot happening yet. But the bill has a lot in it, and one of the things that is the whaling captain deductions. In order to gain support of the Alaskan senators, the bill includes an increased tax deduction for whaling boat captains. So there is so much in this bill, and there's just so much going on that, it's hard for me to believe anything's going to happen through the week and into next week. But goodness, the $5 trillion
tax cuts portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Republicans hail this as, hey, tax cuts for Americans going to put more money in the pockets of the average American family, and this is a good thing. It codifies the 2017 tax cuts put in place by President Trump and makes those permanent. Democrats on the other side say, oh, we're just funding tax cuts for billionaires.
Mm-hmm. And then at the same time,
maybe a little disingenuous on both sides, right?
Right, and then you got the other side where you have the social safety net provisions there, such as imposing work requirements and potentially lowering provider taxes and those things. So, there's this. It's like a scissor, It's you got one side going one way, one side going the other. Both seemingly very valid points, but just not able to get to the middle here yet. But as you and I've talked, these huge omnibus bills are. This is earth-shattering type of legislation to get through. So it's going to take a lot of work and effort to whittle this thing down to where both sides can agree.
The Medicaid piece of it, I feel like there are a lot of people that look at this and go, hold on a second. So a minimal work requirement for able-bodied Medicaid recipients is entirely reasonable.
Should be.
And those work requirements are 80 hours a month. That's just 20 hours a week. It could be in a paying job. It can be in a volunteer role. There are all kinds of exceptions for people with medical conditions or child-raising conditions that don't allow them to work. But it just says if you're an able-bodied American who receives Medicaid, you got to get up and work a little. And yet that is somehow stripping away the rights.
Well, it's stripping away
talk about
entitlements.
A lot of people being taken. Well, yes. No, you and I agree there. But they would say, hey, you're stripping away the rights of people on Medicaid. A lot of people are going to be taken off the Medicaid rolls. Many of them undocumented, illegal immigrants who are receiving Medicaid coverage. Democrats say, oh, no. That is bad. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries was quick to get up and quote the Bible and saying, the version I read of the Bible is far different than this version. A lot of money in there for defense and border security.
Separation of church and state.
Say again?
The separation of church and state, right?
When it's convenient. Only when it's convenient. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back right after this.
What are we going to do? Rise and shine with information and insight.
Check it out.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Oh, darling. Nice to see you. It's been a long time, just as lovely as you used to be. How's your new love? Are you happy? Hope you're doing fine, just to know it.
Back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. Lance Tolbert. Thanks for being with us.
Got to lock up the ladies.
SuperTalk, Mississippi. There you go.
That's my guy right there, Conway. Great hairdo, also.
Oh, immaculate.
Yeah, immaculate. Con Air, he kept them in business.
Your morning sports update is brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Pearl River Resort. Big news yesterday from the Department of Education and the University of Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania yesterday modified a trio of school records set by transgender swimmer Leah Thomas and said that it would apologize to female athletes disadvantaged by her or his participation on the women's swimming team, part of a resolution of a federal civil rights case. They announced the voluntary agreement yesterday in the high-profile case focused on Thomas, who last competed for the Ivy League school in 2022 when, the story from the Associated Press and ESPN says she, but it's when he became the first openly transgender athlete to win a Division I title. Under the agreement, Penn agreed to restore all individual Division I records and titles to female athletes who lost to Thomas and send a personalized apology letter to each of those swimmers, according to the Department of Education. By yesterday afternoon, the Penn website showed other athletes holding the school's top times in the events that Thomas won. The site was annotated with a note at the end that said, quote, competing under eligibility rules in effect at the time, Leah Thomas set program records in the 100, 200, and 500 freestyle during the 21-22 season. While Penn's policies during that academic year and swim season were in accordance with NCAA eligibility rules at the time, we acknowledge that some student athletes were disadvantaged by these rules. We recognize this and will apologize to those who experienced a competitive disadvantage or experienced anxiety because of the policies in effect at the time. You may remember a while back Riley Gaines joining me on the radio and talking about, this said experienced anxiety because of the policies in effect at the time. She talked about that anxiety when she, in close quarters, had to share a dressing area with a male swimmer who stripped down completely. It's supposed to be a private area. It was not the case. As part of the settlement, the university must also announce that it will not allow males to compete in female athletic programs, and it is adopting biology-based definitions of male and female. If you need further explanation on that, I would like to point you to the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, Kindergarten Cop. If you know, you know. There is a scene in there where a kindergartner explains in great detail to Mr. Schwarzenegger, who is operating as an undercover substitute teacher at the time, the anatomical differences between boys and girls. You know, that's the line where the part of the movie where Schwarzenegger kind of looks down and goes, my head hurts. And somebody goes, it might be a tumor. It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Well, that's a great movie, man. I just lost it right there for a minute. I'm sorry. But, yeah, William Thomas ranked 462 in men's swimming. Leah Thomas, ranked number 1 in women's swimming. I wonder how that happened, you know?
As part of the settlement with the university, let's see, we did that. We did the biology-based definitions. Penn said they've always been in compliance with NCAA and Title IX rules as they were interpreted at the time, and that the university has never had its own policies around transgender athlete participation. The school simply followed NCAA guidelines. Education Secretary Linda McMahon yesterday called it a victory for women and girls. She said the department commends UPenn for rectifying its past harms against women and girls. And we will fight relentlessly to restore Title IX's proper application and enforce it to the fullest extent of the law. Common sense prevailed yesterday.
How long did that take? Common sense took, 4 or 5 years to prevail?
Took a long time.
Yeah, man.
Took a long time. But, hey, you know, you got to get to the finish line.
Better late than never.
Wimbledon is going on. A lot of people that really like watching Wimbledon. One of the 4 Grand Slams on the tennis circuit. Coco Gauff became just the 3rd woman in the Open era to lose in the first round at Wimbledon right after winning the championship at the French Open. She lost 7-6, 6-1 yesterday to a Ukrainian tennis player. The number 2 ranked Gauff made mistake after mistake on court number 1, finishing with just 6 winners and a total of 29 unforced errors, including 9 double faults. But she was not the only player yesterday that did not play well early. You had upsets all over the place at Wimbledon yesterday. I feel like, by the way, this is a bit of an ode to Perez. My man loved tennis.
Yeah.
You had 8 of the top 10 combined on the men's and women's side. 8 top 10 seats, 4 women, 4 men, eliminated during the first 2 days of play, setting the record for the most ever at a major. Not just at Wimbledon, but at a major in the Open era. It's also the first time 2 of the top 3 women lost in the opening round. On the men's side, 13 seeded players failed to advance to the second round, tying the mark previously set back in 2004 at the Australian Open. So you had Coco Gauff losing to Diana Yastremska. You had Jessica Pegula losing to Elisabetta Cocciaretto, 6-2, 6-3. You had Xing Qinwen losing to Katerina Siniakova, 7-5, 4-6, 6-1. Paula Badosa lost to Katie Bolter, 6-2, 3-6, 6-4. On the men's side, Alexander Zverev lost to Arthur Rinderknecht. You remember the time when we knew who the tennis players were?
Yeah. I used to love
back
watching
when you had
that.
guys like
Jimmy
Andre
Connors
Agassi and Michael Chain and Jim Connors and
all those guys, and McEnroe.
Yeah. Lorenzo Musetti lost to Nicholas Basilashvili. Mm-hmm. Holger Rune lost to Nicholas Jarry. And Daniil Medvedev lost to Benjamin Bonzi. Whatever.
It was funny.
Upsets at Wimbledon.
Yeah, I want to say something funny. Yeah, when Wimbledon was going on when I first started working for Paul, it was either Wimbledon or one of the other big ones. And I tried to cover, what had happened. And he jumped in on that like within 10 seconds. Like, he shut me down so quick on tennis. So in the break, I said, hey, it is a big tournament. He goes, man, nobody wants to hear about that stuff. Let's just move on. So I learned quickly with tennis. I was like, all right. I'm not touching tennis or soccer, man. So, but yeah, Wimbledon, that's kind of a big deal, Kind of a big deal. The grass court. I've never really played much tennis. I've tried. It seems very challenging. I can hit it very fast, but I have no control. Are you a tennis guy?
No.
Yeah, no.
My kids play tennis.
Mm-hmm. I think you have to almost be
have played and will. It's a hard sport.
It is. It seems like it'd be easier if you picked it up young. If like that's something you did.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But that's like almost everything.
Yeah, I mean, golf, and I've heard of people picking up golf.
What about pickleball? Have you picked up pickleball?
No, I have not. Have you nailed it around?
Fun.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
A little bit, but it's fun. Mm-hmm. And kids of all ages play.
Y'all got pretty nice little setup for pickleball up there, don't you?
There's good pickleball spots in Oxford. Maybe not as advanced as some places, but yeah, there are growing opportunities for pickleball. I think I don't know if I've told you this story or not. So my son and a buddy of his were playing, and they went to the park commission, and they were playing with my son's buddy's grandmother and a friend of hers. And they kind of split up and were, young and old on both sides, and they were playing. Obi said after they finished that, he said, up next we played some old dudes, and we got cooked.
Yeah, pickleball's new.
They played 60, 70-year-old guys on the other side against a couple of 12-year-olds, and he's like, they spin it and they put it in places where you can't get to it and whatever. And somebody, I guess it was my mom, and asked me, she's like, how do you describe pickleball? It's like a cross between tennis and ping pong.
Yeah. You're standing up on a ping pong table, basically.
There you go.
I love ping pong now. I'm a beast at ping pong. So,
are you?
Oh yeah, I'll play anybody, anytime in ping pong.
Like full on Forrest Gump?
I'm not like Forrest, but I wish I was. That dude could sling it. Multiple balls banging around and all that. No, I can't do that. But I'm pretty good ping pong player. Play for
That's your sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. We got more coming up with you. We'll take a look at some of the stuff that's going on with the Mississippi Lottery next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross right here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Why don't you leave a small hand called Tupelo?
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Hey, how's it going, man?
The news you need.
Every 10, 15 minutes, there's something.
The talk you love.
They really talk about the things that matter. I'm into all that stuff.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Your daily Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, mslottery.com. Got some good-sized jackpots that are happening tonight. Lotto America, $2.5 million with an estimated cash value of $1.14 million. No winner on Monday night, so your chance to win is tonight. No jackpot winner on Monday with Powerball. Tonight it's up to $174 million with an estimated cash value just under $80 million. And we talked about it. Mega Millions started over yesterday. Got a $60 million jackpot now for Mega Millions. Cash value just a shade under $27 million. No Mississippi Match 5 jackpot winner. Tonight the drawing is for $303,000. How about a little cash 3 and a little cash 4?
Well, the cash 3 $500 midday Tuesday number 629 evening. What's that?
No, I think I lost you just for a second.
Okay.
We're back all good now.
Evening cash 3 500 519 cash 4 $5,000 midday drawing 0448. Evening numbers 1385. Fireball of 6 and a cash pop of 4 for the midday. Evening Fireball of 5 and a cash pop of 6. So there we go.
There you go. Talked about some of the new games that are now available to you. They launched yesterday. The $2 Mad Money Scratch Off, a classic number match game where money bag symbols win instantly up to $25,000. The $5 5X the Cash Scratch Off, where the top prize is $100,000. And the $10 Triple Red 777, top prize of $200,000. You got to be 21 or older to play. Let's look at some winners. We start with Cash 4, where a Jackson woman won $5,000 on a ticket from Lakeland Red Apple Texaco in Flowood.
Just right down the street from me. I know that place well. Cash pop winners.
You go.
Yeah, had a couple nice ones in the
cash.
Could
have been you, Lance.
Yeah, right, yeah. Could have been. Got to buy them, though, right? A Boonville man on Cash Pop won $1,000 from a ticket at the Blue Sky 710 in Boonville, and a Camden woman won $2,500 on a ticket from Sprint Mart 4117 in Grenada, Mississippi. And
there you go. Yeah. Players from Holka and Chula each won $1,000 on tickets from Smokes in Houston and Bell's Grocery in Thornton. Collinsville woman won $5,000 on a ticket from Winn-Dixie in Meridian.
I love a Winn-Dixie. $10 Spectacular Riches winner. First one of those I've seen. A Hattiesburg player with $10,000 in the pocket on a ticket from the Fast Mart 31 in Hattiesburg. And a $20 $100 million Extravaganza winner. A Meridian player, $2,000 richer. Purchased a ticket from Shell Food Mart number 19 in Meridian.
Very good. I can't hear Winn-Dixie without thinking about the old baseball tournament that used to happen at the Superdome.
Yeah, I played in it.
All those years ago.
Freshman year at Auburn.
Did you?
Yeah, it was a great experience, man. We had, was it UNO, Tulane, and LSU? And then it was Auburn, Alabama, and South Alabama that year, I think. Fun times.
It was always 3 teams from Louisiana hosting it, and then some years you'd have 3 Mississippi teams, Ole Miss State, Southern Miss. Some years it was Alabama teams and others, but that was cool. I don't think the configuration of the Superdome anymore allows for that event.
Watching, it was the first year of the live bats, Richard, and I chose pitching. I could have done either or, but I was, pitching. The head coach wanted me to pitch more, and we get out there. The first time we broke out the new bats was at the Winn-Dixie Challenge, day before the tournament started, and watching Mark Bellhorn and Kevin Chabot and our team take BP, all of us pitchers looked at each other like, oh, God, what did we get ourselves into? When you're hitting balls off the back of the Superdome during BP, Bellhorn was hitting them left-handed and right-handed, and we were like, oh, my goodness, this is going to be something. And it was. That first year of the live bats, man, it was unique, I should say, but that was the way you got introduced to it, was in a big, big tournament in a big stadium. And, yeah, the configuration was a little weird. It's kind of cavernous in there, but great tournament. We had a lot of fun.
C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Good morning, and thanks so much for the comments on tennis. There are many of us tennis followers out here, so don't forget about us. We also love football and basketball. You did a good job on announcing their names. That's from tough. Alice. Thanks, Alice.
I've started bringing in some AI on that. Or we start giving nicknames. That might be what we need to do on the tennis. Some of those names are a little tough.
Jerry in Corinth, one of his vivid memories of college is ping pong at the Student Union.
Yeah, there you go. That and foosball. Foosball expert right here.
Ooh, yeah. CC in Senatobia said Roddick versus Federer was cool. Now it's Yannick Faltina versus Pulististin Kinkowski.
Yeah.
The French Open final was really, really entertaining. Thomas said Grandma always had Conway playing on the 8-track in her Cadillac, smoking with the windows up, choking us out, all while swearing that fabric headliner was supposed to absorb the smoke.
The good old days.
Oh, Thomas, days gone by. Thanks for being with us this morning. One quick hour in the books. We go to the 7 o'clock hour. Representative Rodney Hall will be by in about 20 minutes. We're back with you right after this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Coffee, conversations, and clarity. What a great way to start your Mississippi day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Well, I've heard those city singers singing about how they can love deeper than the oceans, higher than the stars above. Well, I come from the country and I
Quinn with compliments to the spinner of records this morning. His name is Lance. He says, Lance, when I get a jukebox, I'm definitely going to consult you. Always great music.
Well, man, I appreciate it. This here little Randy Travis, Deeper Than the Holler, one of my favorites. He's sitting on a big pile of wood, freshly chopped. And I don't think he did that, but it's a good-looking pic.
Might have.
He's in a nice polo shirt and very well pressed. Randy, though, man, he could sing it.
Quinn commented on the C-Spire text line. You can as well, 601-879-4395. Looking for game-changing technology? Then you need C-Spire on your team. 5G wireless, fiber home internet, and business IT solutions built as tough as your defense. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. This hour of the show is brought to you by our friends at MWG Employer Services. You can find them online at mwgemployerservices.com. If you're a business owner, you know that a lot of the somewhat menial tasks can sometimes feel overwhelming. Tasks like HR, benefits, payroll. If you're struggling with those, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. That's mwgemployerservices.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. We are glad to be with you this morning, and we welcome you to the conversation. Representative Rodney Hall will join us starting at 7:37 this morning, so about half an hour from right now. He's vice chair of the Military Affairs Committee. We'll talk about some of the legislation that he worked on this year in his first term in the House of Representatives, bills that have gone into law here in Mississippi, and perhaps some time about his military service as well. A really interesting, fascinating, and I think young superstar in the Mississippi legislature. So we wish you, hope that you will stick around for that conversation coming up in just a little while. Also, in the 8 o'clock hour, the mayor of Tupelo, Mississippi, Todd Jordan, will join us. Talk about some of the economic development stuff that's happening in the city of Tupelo, the sale of the mall at Barnes Crossing that happened last week. There was a lot of consternation about that as people didn't understand exactly what was going on. But I think generally speaking, for consumers, for shoppers, nothing really changed. A lot of paperwork shuffling behind the scenes, but we'll get an update on that and more about what's happening in Tupelo with Todd Jordan in the 8 o'clock hour. Good dude. Todd's a former athlete at Mississippi State, and he was a quarterback, and he was a punter. A star at Tupelo before going to Mississippi State, so that'll be a fun conversation coming up a little bit later.
Yeah, he's from my era, man. I was a big Todd Jordan fan. I love the guy. He's such a great mayor too. We had him on a couple weeks ago as Garden Mama was, up there. And let me tell you, what a great guy doing such
at the farmers market.
Yeah, the grand opening, and he was kind of mingling around behind. I said, I know that guy. That's Todd Jordan. And then we had him on obviously as a guest, but such a great guy. Toby Barker, Hattiesburg, Robin in Oxford, Sproul and Starkville, and so many others are doing such a great job. Mm-hmm. And I just want to take a second to say that because I've been to all these places recently, and man, what a revitalization and renaissance which is going on in many, many Mississippi small and mid-sized towns. And it has a lot to do with leadership, right?
Yeah, Dan Gibson yesterday joining us, the mayor of Natchez. A lot of energy there, a lot of good stuff happening. So
thanks for reminding me of Dan.
You just messed up, by the way.
What did I say?
You started singling out towns in Mississippi.
I don't mean to single them out. I'm just the ones that I've been to recently that I've seen so many things that are happening in a positive way. And then we have this capital city here. We need some revitalization here. There's too many great things going on across the state. And I wanted to just mention that it's if you have an opportunity to get out and see some of these towns this summer, go do it. The farmers markets, the road trip. Yeah, I mean, just there's so much happening, and take advantage of it.
Really, really good stuff. John Horn going to try to do some revitalizing in the capital city, as you were mentioning a second ago. Yesterday was the day that a lot of the new laws went into effect. Based on what was done in the most recent legislative session in Mississippi. Let's recap kind of where we are and what happened. We did some of this on Monday, kind of previewing with JT Mitchell. The big headline grabber is the new tax package in the state of Mississippi. Largest ever tax policy shift signed into law by Governor Tate Reeves back at the end of March. And it set in motion a phase-out of the state income tax. Culmination of a years-long effort by Reeves and Republican lawmakers to slash the income tax was not an easy fight. Leaders in the Senate and the House traded verbal barbs amid fundamental differences, eventually landing on a measure that both sides could agree on. House Bill 1, cutting state income taxes by more than $1 billion, reducing the personal income tax from 4% to 3% by 2030, with plans for full elimination by 2037. Drops the sales tax on groceries from 7% to 5% immediately. That went into effect yesterday. So if you went to the grocery store yesterday, you should have only paid 5% on your necessary food items at the grocery store. Now, look, it's going to be a little harder, honestly, if you're going through your receipt to try and figure out what was taxed at what rate, because your vegetables and your meats and your fruits and your normal everyday grocery items are now at the 5% level. But if you buy toilet paper and household cleaners and a mousetrap while you're at the grocery store, those things are still going to be taxed at the 7% rate. So it's for food, but you should have seen that drop yesterday. The tax bill added a fifth benefit tier, Tier 5, to the state public employees retirement system, or PERS. The beginning of a 9-cent excise tax increase on gas began yesterday. It's 3 cents per year for the next 3 years. So if you bought 10 gallons of gas yesterday, it cost you 30 cents more than it would have cost you on Monday. And that money is going for roads and bridges, going to go directly to the counties, some of it going to MDOT as well. But that's going to happen over 3 years. 74% of the annual revenue accrued through this excise tax increase on gas is going to MDOT. 23% will go to the state aid road construction fund, and a little less than 3% will go to multimodal investments fund. That's infrastructure in the state. We're talking rail and air and ports and those things. Also, yesterday, went into effect. Consumers should have no question as to where the seafood on their plates comes from under a new law that establishes proper labeling techniques on where the seafood and the crawfish was caught. If you are a restaurant or a wholesaler or a distributor, you got to label the food. If it was caught just off the coast of Mississippi, you tell people, hey, this is Mississippi fresh-caught seafood. If it's caught off the coast of China, you cannot say that it was caught off the coast of Biloxi. That is illegal. You will not be able to do that anymore. The panhandling and squatting restrictions went into place yesterday. Mississippi homeless population was the focus of several pieces of legislation this past year. Safe Solicitation Act creates a permit system for public panhandlers in the state. The law details new limitations on how panhandling can be conducted, along with equipping law enforcement and varying penalties for violators. Municipalities will get the chance to enforce the measure or not. Permits are not to exceed $25. And those attempting to unlawfully dwell in buildings or land had their rights limited. Governor Reeves signed a separate bill into law, a measure that formally recognizes squatters are not legal tenants, and it eases the eviction process a bit there. Also, those on both sides of a controversial topic seem to be satisfied after a compromise was met to limit the sale of certain kratom products. Synthetic versions of the herbal supplement, which can be toxic or deadly, are banned from the shelves in Mississippi. Limits to the sale of kratom to those 21 years and older. Other substance-related measures will ban virtually all flavored vaping products. So we got that on the books officially as a law now that went into effect yesterday in Mississippi. Back with you right after this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
You're waking up to what matters. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
I can hear 'em, they're buzzing. And I ain't done nothing since I woke up today.
I'm looking a person, go to work in the morning, come home in the evening, and have nothing to say.
Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo.
Welcome back.
Give me one thing.
Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you this morning. C-Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. So we got the thing that a lot of people were talking about yesterday on the C-Spire text line. Somebody said break even on the gas tax going up while the grocery tax or the tax on groceries goes down. So I was trying to do some quick math during the break. If on Monday you had a 20, we're using round numbers here to try and make this easy. Let's say it takes 20 gallons of gas to fill up your gas tank. And on Monday, June 30th, it was $1.84 a gallon. So 20 gallons at $1.84 a gallon would be $36.80. That same gallon of gas cost $1.87 in this example yesterday, 3 cents higher. And so it costs you $37.40. That's 60 cents more to fill up your 20-gallon gas tank times 4 weeks in a month. That's $2.40 more times 12 months in a year. It's an additional $28.80 in this example. Thomas says, where is it $1.84? Thomas, better grab a Q-tip this morning, brother, because I just said it's an example. I don't care what numbers you use, the math works, but for this example, I'm using $1.84 and $1.87. Make it $2.84 if you prefer. Whatever. I don't care. Just stick with me for a second. All right, same thing on groceries. Let's say that you spend $200 a week at the grocery store. And if you did that on Monday, June 30th, that $200 you spent at the grocery store with 7% tax was $214. So your out-the-door bill was $214. If you did yesterday at the grocery store a $200 purchase, and for the purposes of this, I said $150 of that was in grocery purchases, and then there was like $50 in household items. All right, so your household items, the $50 you spent there, still taxed at 7%. $53.50 is your bill on that. The $150 that was taxed at 5%, you're at $157.50. So your total at the grocery store on Monday would have been $214. Your total at the grocery store yesterday, with the grocery tax going down to 5% from 7%, is $211. So that saved you $3. You do that 4 times a month. That's a savings of $12. Times 12 months, that's a savings of $144. So in this example, you save about you have about $110 net savings. And so no, it's not just swapping one for the other. Nathan in Smith County says the tax hike cost me a little more because I use 120 to 140 gallons a week delivering. That's why I'm always listening from 5:30 in the morning until late in the evening. I'm always in the truck. Well, let's say to you, Nathan in Smith County, thank you for listening from early until late in the day. And yeah, the example that I was using was I was just trying to go kind of for the very average Mississippian. If you are in a fuel-intensive business, then it may cost you a little bit more. If you just have a normal vehicle and you operate normally, you go to work, you go to church, you go to the store, you take a trip here and there, whatever, then probably the grocery tax reduction benefits you a little bit more. It's not a massive number one way or the other. But what it does is, by shifting things around, it gives the average Mississippian a little bit of savings, and it creates a revenue stream to ultimately try to make our highways and byways, our roads and bridges, a little bit better. Because that is money that was having to be allocated out of the general fund or the lottery proceeds or whatever on a year-in, year-out basis. And so, in theory, that money can be spent in other places. And remember, the big piece of this is the income tax being phased out over the course of the next 11 years. Nathan says, but I'm willing to pay if these roads get better, bad roads, to a number on my vehicle and trailer. And to me, I've thought since the beginning, and going back to January and February and March when we were talking about this on a daily basis, it's way closer to a use tax than anything we've had before. Right? If you use the roads more, you have to pay a little more. C-Spire text line. cents on a gallon versus a percent, the percent on groceries is always going to be more. And you remember that there was a lot of conversation about an excise tax versus a sales tax on gas. And a sales tax on gas would have cost more than the excise tax is going to cost. Somebody said then the second and third year of gas kicks in while groceries stays the same. Thanks. Yeah, it's going to go up 3 cents, 3 cents, 3 cents. And I guess if I had a little bit longer, I could do the math on 6 cents a gallon more, 9 cents a gallon more. But, I mean, let's see, 60 would go to $1.80. I can do that quickly, just using the same numbers. So this is when it gets to 9 cents. Times 4 weeks would be $7.20. Times 12 months is $86.40. In that example, it's still a net savings. It's just a smaller net savings. There are a couple of other things, though, that were part of House Bill 1. So we talked about the gas tax, the grocery tax, the income tax, seafood labeling. I'm sorry, this was not House Bill 1. This was part of the other laws that went into effect. New law allowing state employees to stay home with newborns or newly adopted children without suffering financial detriment. The Mississippi State Employees Paid Parental Leave Act allows a 6-week paid leave period for state employees who have been on the job for a year. Also provides paid medical leave for employees. Mississippi joining 36 other states. A couple others here. DEI ban in public schools. The ACLU has sued the state over the new anti-DEI law, but no action has been taken to bar the legislation from going into effect. The implementation comes as the governing body overseeing public K-12 institutions, along with multiple universities, has begun their policies relating to DEI out of fear of potentially putting state funding in peril. So codified that. You got a new law making it a felony in Mississippi for child grooming. It's intended to protect young, vulnerable Mississippians from predators. A person 21 or older who knowingly communicates with a minor 16 or under with the intent of coercing the child to engage in sexually explicit conduct could face between 2 and 10 years in prison with a fine up to $10,000. The Attorney General's office very much behind that bill. And then the direct wine shipment. New law allows Mississippians to have direct wine shipments to their home up to 12 cases per year. Somebody 21 or older has got to be there. It's going to be taxed at 15.5%, 3% of that going toward mental health services, with the remaining tax revenue going to the general fund. Let's see here. C-Spire text line. Wear and tear on vehicle costs a lot more than a slight increase in gas prices, so more money going to road repair could save you more money in the long run. That's the hope. Wouldn't higher fuel costs cause grocery store prices to go up due to increased delivery costs? Potentially. I don't know that a 3-cent hike in fuel cost is going to go to a direct 3-cent hike in grocery costs. But I get what you're saying there. Thomas says you should just drive less and eat more to maximize your savings. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Representative Rodney Hall joins us coming up next. He is District 20 Vice Chairman of the Military Affairs Committee. We'll talk with Representative Hall about his first session in the Mississippi House of Representatives when we come back. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. The Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Between Hank Williams' pain songs, blueberries train songs, and blue eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain.
How did she feel when he said, "Baby, let's sell those diamond rings"?
Not good.
I wondered if she was actually on board with that. Good to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Appreciate you joining us. Happy to welcome our first guest this morning. Some people call him Lieutenant Colonel. Some people call him Representative. Some people call him Dad. Some people just call him Rodney. He is Rodney Hall, represents District 20, part of DeSoto County, Vice Chair of the Military Affairs Committee. Representative Rodney Hall, good morning to you.
Richard, it's good to be with you. Good morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm quite well, thank you. I hope you and your family have a wonderful holiday weekend coming up. Any big plans? Or are you we got to get around the grill and have a big family gathering? Going anywhere? What's it going to be?
Well, I'll tell you, Richard, I don't know about down there in central Mississippi, but the first priority is to try to stay cool. It has been a hot summer, and trying to beat the heat is definitely top of priority.
Yeah, I'm just about ready to trade the rain though for heat. Like if we can take a little bit of a break on the rain, we'll just endure the heat for a little while and make do. Yeah. So at least you get the outdoor activities absolutely. That way. So you took office you took office in 2024. So a couple of sessions in your hip pocket now. I'm curious, when you think back to when you decided to run for state representative, how the first 2 years have been different than maybe you imagined they would have been.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, Richard, it has been a whirlwind of experience. Of course, I started in legislation working in Congress for the 1st Congressional District on staff up in D.C. And so when you talk about the legislative process, I did feel pretty confident coming in and having some kind of experience, not just with the rules, but with the procedures and how things go. But I'll tell you, it's different, and it's supposed to be different. So Washington's not like the state of Mississippi, and we do things somewhat differently. I'll tell you one thing that I have been very fortunate, or one thing that I really enjoyed, is the speed at which we can attack issues in Mississippi for Mississippians. You know, the whole joke in D.C. is you spend 4 years up there just to try to pass, you might pass a post office bill, but, down in Mississippi, you can identify challenges and you can identify opportunities and you can act on them pretty quickly if you work with your colleagues. So that part has been fun.
That's interesting perspective to me, because I think there are a lot of people that say, man, they've been talking about, getting rid of the income tax for years now and have gone through different iterations of that, or the school choice conversation just seems to drag on and on and on. But I suppose the perspective is, if it takes 2 or 3 sessions to get something done, that is, that's pretty quick compared to the pace at which things move in the Capitol in D.C. from time to time.
No, you're absolutely right. And, one other thing is, you don't want wide, big major changes every single year. You want to take a nuanced and, a incremental approach when it comes to addressing some of the challenges. One thing that I learned in the Army is, normally when things come up to the highest ranks, right? So if you're a commander and things are coming in front of your desk, that means they couldn't be solved at the local level. That means that it required a little bit more deliberation. And so, yeah, sometimes we get it all done in one year. Sometimes it takes a couple iterations to get a bill perfect. But the goal is that we're always moving forward and we're always inching towards success. And I think we've been able to do that, at least in my 2 years in the House.
It's interesting to me, as someone who represents DeSoto County, there are unique challenges that your constituents face that lots of other parts of the state of Mississippi don't face, simply because of the size and the growth rate that we've seen in DeSoto County over the last decade. I mean, I guess it's longer than that, but just this massive growth in the last 10 years. How does that change maybe your approach to the legislative process and what you advocate for, compared to a colleague that maybe is from one of the smaller towns in Mississippi?
Yeah, that's a good question, Richard. I try to take a perspective where I'm always looking at my district first. I'm always looking at my county. Of course, those are the folks that elected me and sent me down to Jackson to represent them. So I want to make sure that DeSoto County equities are always first and foremost. when I'm down in Jackson. But then I also take a nuanced approach for the entire state. You know, I've been traveling this state for quite some time, both before I got elected, when I was working in Washington, and even when I was in the Guard. I mean, I've been down there. I was a company commander down in Poplarville. I'm always down at Camp Shelby, the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I lived down there for a year prior to my second deployment. So I have spent a lot of time all across the state, and it's not the same. But with that said, as we continue to work on equities here in DeSoto County, which is my number one priority, I'll also look and make sure that we're not having second and third tertiary effects that negatively impact the rest of the state of Mississippi. Because ultimately, we all will rise together. So as the Mississippi Gulf Coast does well, or as DeSoto County does well, I also want to see Central Mississippi do well, also the Delta. So we have different unique challenges all across the world. But I'll tell you what, I think we're doing a lot of good things in the House, and we're getting after those issues.
You certainly are in a county where public school is a big deal. You have so many people that have moved from the Memphis area into DeSoto County specifically because of the school district. It is insane to see the growth and the number of the high schools that are there, the number of big high schools that are there that almost jumped just to 6A, 7A right out of the gate. Yeah. With that growth, I know comes challenge, and then there are other challenges within DeSoto County. What do those look like for you? What are your constituents most concerned about in DeSoto County, just kind of on a day-to-day basis?
Well, number one is public safety. And also keeping our economic, keeping our foot on the economic gas. It's no secret that we are literally 1 mile away from Memphis, Tennessee. And Memphis has its own unique challenges when it comes to crime and public safety. And I've been very impressed.
Well, that was said. You said that about as mildly as you could possibly say it.
Yeah, well, I try to be somewhat kind to my neighbor up north, but they have some real challenges up there. And my hat goes off. I sit and talk with our police chiefs. Of course, we just got a new police chief here in South Haven. I talk with Olive Branch, but then also our sheriff, and they're really they're on the front lines making sure that DeSoto County stays safe. And that's important. When you talk about not only people and residents moving down, we have a ton of influx coming in from Shelby County that are trying to flee that crime, and they want safe communities, they want good schools, but also jobs. When you have entrepreneurs or when you have businesses that are looking to relocate or to establish a footprint somewhere, they want to make sure that when they shut their doors at night and they lock up their shop, when they come in the morning, that they have something to go back to, that their windows aren't broken into and that all their stuff isn't ransacked. And so public safety always remains the number one issue and a pacing threat that we keep our finger on the pulse on when it comes to DeSoto County. But then, like you said, infrastructure is a big thing. We have so many people up here in DeSoto County that all of our challenges, all of our opportunities seem to be somewhat expensive. Another one that we're really focused on is the DeCrua matter. And I want to give a kudos to Senator Roger Wicker and Congressman Trent Kelly. I know they have been doing their part up there in D.C. on our behalf to make sure that we can secure the funding to build this wastewater facility that came out of litigation against the city of Memphis. But we're doing our part down here as well. Our supervisors are working hard on it. My delegation in Jackson, we have been beating the drum on it. We're trying to make sure we're securing the funding for it. But you're absolutely right. Our challenges are very unique. You talk about schools. Hernando, they're getting ready to open up a new high school. And I want to say that they might be maxed out already. And this is a larger school. So the growth is incredible. The challenges they're real, but the opportunities are there as well.
I think about the makeup of DeSoto County, and for most counties in Mississippi, you have one city and then a bunch of communities. And that's not the case in every county, but generally speaking. In DeSoto County, it's Hernando, Olive Branch, South Haven, Lake Cormorant, Lewisburg, and all of them are growing. And I probably left somebody out in terms of that. Yeah. And so you have all of these city governments that have to kind of work in conjunction with each other as part of the county.
Yep. Conservative leadership matters. Electing folks at all levels of government matters. I look at the cities that I represent, Olive Branch and South Haven. You look at Hernando. You look at all of our cities with strong conservative leadership, and they're competing against each other, right? And that creates their own challenges there, but they're all doing remarkable things. I mean, if you just drive down, I drive my district every day. I still knock on doors in the off season so I can stay engaged with my constituents. And I tell you, man, there are new cranes every single day, so it's good.
We're going to continue our conversation with Representative Rodney Hall on the other side of this break. We'll talk a little bit about the legislation he was involved with, and I want to hear a little bit more specifically about your military career. We'll let the people of the state of Mississippi get to know you a little bit better. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Back after this.
From the Venable Glass.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk Mississippi.
And the reason just might be you're so good to me.
Welcome again, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Representative Rodney Hall from Desoto County is my guest this morning. He's vice chair of the Military Affairs Committee and has got 2 years in the books now at the state capitol in Jackson, or at least 2 sessions in the books, I guess I should say. Talk to me about your role on the Military Affairs Committee and where some of the focus is from a legislative perspective on that.
Yeah, the Military Affairs Committee is very near and dear to my heart, being a soldier. I'm coming up on 21 years of service myself. Of course, my dad, he did 25 years, so I at least got a couple more before I get ahead of him. But, my connections across the state and being in that community is very important. We have really tried to kind of reform what the Military Affairs Committee does. A lot of the times it becomes a, kind of just like a Veterans Affairs thing, but I think we need to be a little bit more forward thinking and look for other opportunities as we, continue to work within that committee. One bill that we worked on feverishly was the STRONG Act, and it was the Strengthening Troop Retention for our National Guard. This is kind of all across the country, but recruiting and retention has been a challenge to make sure that we're keeping our ranks full so that we can be prepared to defend our nation and defend our state. And so that bill, it had, I want to say 95 or 96 co-authors on it. We passed it in the House, but it got held up on some challenges. And we really need to relook at that next year. We need to give our National Guard leaders the tools that we can for them to be able to fill our ranks.
You are a lieutenant colonel. You talked about your military service. I'm just fascinated by your perspective as you were watching, like the rest of us, and reading about the operation that our men and women underwent just a week or so ago in terms of the bombing of the nuclear facilities in Iran, the precision, the number of people that were involved with that, the stealth that was involved. Yeah. What did you think as you were watching and reading about that? That's unbelievable.
I mean, you got to think. You had pilots from the homeland, from the United States, hop on a flight, fly across the country, and drop a bomb on a size of on a target so precisely and hit the mark and made it back home safely. I mean, you think back to our greatest generation during World War II when they were dropping bombs over there. A lot of them were in a lot more peril. It was a lot more risk. And, you had a lot of folks do missions somewhat similar on a smaller scale, but they didn't make it back home. And so when you look at our technical advantages, the asymmetry that we have when it comes to our ability to bring firepower, to bring the fight to the enemy off of our shores, but on their homeland, that's just incredible. I'm extremely proud of the men and women that were all involved in that operation.
We've gone through times in our country's history where the support at home for the military was not what it should have been. I think specifically about kind of the end of the Vietnam years. And honestly, in recent years, there has been a degradation of the military. And one of the things that we have heard people at the national level, Pete Hegseth in particular, talk about is, a return to lethality. getting rid of some of the policies that were more that were less merit based, and focusing on just putting the best fighting force that's out there. From your perspective, as somebody who has spent 2 decades in the military, are we in a good place right now with the leadership?
We're definitely getting there. All the reforms that they have put in place have been extremely positive for our ranks. I'll tell you, when I chose to join the Army, one, it was because my dad was a soldier. I wanted to be just like my dad. But when I picked the particular job that I wanted to do, I wanted to be an infantryman. And, my mama, she must have cried for probably a week. She wanted me to be an engineer or an attorney for the Army. But I said, no, man, I wanted to be a grunt because I wanted to be with the best. I wanted to lead the best. And I wanted to know that if I was having to fight in some far off distant land, that the person to the left and right of me were the absolute best. I wanted to be with warriors. I wanted to be with leaders, folks that believe in lethality, believe in being strong and getting after the mission. And so us abandoning all these woke policies that the Biden administration put in there, I'll tell you, man, that stuff, it just overloaded our armed services. The amount of crap that they had to deal with just to get to the battlefield was incredible. And so us reversing course and getting back to what really matters, putting first things first, is doing wonders for our ranks. And that's happening all across the country.
All right, you've talked about your dad a couple of times. We got less than a minute to go. When he retired, what was his rank?
So my dad was a first sergeant. So, I'm an officer, but I always say if I don't know what right is, I at least know what it looks like because I was raised by a first sergeant. I'll tell you, our NCO corps is what really separates us from everybody else. And so I love our NCOs.
I love hearing you talk about wanting to emulate your dad and follow in those footsteps. Representative Hall, thank you for your service both in our military and now in the legislature in Mississippi. I think the future's bright with leaders like you, and I look forward to more conversations with you moving forward.
Hey, thank you, Richard. It's good to be with you. Y'all be safe on the 4th.
Thank you. Same to you. Representative Rodney Hall, District 20, DeSoto County. What a good guy. Look forward to continuing to visit with him. We're back after this.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
He said, son, my name is Beauregard Rippey. I come to you from Tupelo, Mississippi. I write songs and I sing like a bird. I play licks on my guitar like you ain't never heard. But I'm down on my luck things.
8 o'clock hour. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. We welcome your messages on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber internet, and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. My thanks to Representative Rodney Hall from DeSoto County joining us just a little while ago, and we go from DeSoto County to Lee County, Tupelo in particular, where we are joined by the mayor of the city of Tupelo, Todd Jordan. Mr. Mayor, good morning to you.
Morning, Richard. Appreciate you having me on.
No mayor's office in Tupelo could be complete without a picture of Elvis immediately over his left shoulder. So you've got it knocked out, and you're doing the right things.
Well, I had a friend of mine, a friend of our family, did this painting behind us, and that was one thing she gifted me when I got in office was a couple of prints of Elvis, and hey, you have to display that, right?
I asked Representative Rodney Hall a little while ago. He's still relatively new in office in the State House, and I said, "What's different about what you're doing than you thought it was going to be before you moved into that role?" So I'll kind of rephrase it, but same for you. Working in this role as mayor, overseeing an incredibly vibrant city like Tupelo that's got so much going on, how is it different sitting at your desk, walking in your shoes as mayor than maybe you thought it was going to be before you became mayor?
Well, I was county supervisor before, so I had a little bit of government experience, legislative experience, but we did not deal with the number of employees that the city of Tupelo does. I mean, we have around 600 full-time, part-time employees, and I think managing your department heads, managing your employees, that's one thing that could be a little overwhelming, I think, if you're not used to that type of environment.
You know, they're all different kinds of shapes and sizes to cities in the state of Mississippi, and they all come with their own sets of challenges at the local level. I would assume that one of the things that you are managing is growth, whether it's economic growth or population growth or business growth. Talk to me about growth in particular in Tupelo and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Well, and we're a little different, Richard. Where we are, our population is about 38,000. Our daytime population is over 130,000. We have North Mississippi Medical Center, which employs about 9,000 people. We have Goodyear Tire. We have all these factories that people come in to work. On the weekend, obviously, if you've ever been to the Barnes Crossing area on the weekend, most time people get up and say on Facebook, don't go to the mall area because it's so crowded. Well, that's when you want to go. You want to see, the tags that are there, where they're coming from. So, the economic growth is unbelievable. It's something that you want, but it does put a strain on your infrastructure during the daytime, and then obviously your emergency services. Our police and fire during the day, they're very busy, and rightfully so with that many people coming in. But, it's a good thing. I mean, you just manage it and you welcome it. And, if we didn't have those tax dollars, we couldn't do the things that we need to do for those economic developers to come in and invest here.
You mentioned Barnes Crossing. That's something that has very much been in the news as of late. I feel like kids all over North Mississippi, I say kids, people that are my age who grew up in the late 80s, early 90s in the northern part or northeastern part of the state of Mississippi all have an affinity for the mall at Barnes Crossing to some degree or another, whether it was the carousel or the food court, or that was where the big shopping trip was before school started back, or that's where you went Christmas shopping. It's just been a big and successful mall for a really long time. And then we had the recent news about the foreclosure and the changing of hands. And I guess you and others in Tupelo had some fires to put out in terms of information about what this meant going forward and what that was going to look like for just the everyday shopper that comes in.
Yeah, and when you think about foreclosure, what is the first thing you think of? Well, it's getting shut down. Well, that's kind of a little different in your commercial development. There were two owners of the mall. One of the minority owners died last year, so we knew at that point there was going to be some uncertainty with the mall. It appears that the majority owner was sending a lot of their better retailers to the bigger markets, and rightfully so. You make more money, so there was kind of a standstill on, the future of the mall, but it looks like that, the mall has been bought by the majority owner lending company, and I believe that's a good thing, and I believe there's, brighter things ahead for the mall. I mean, there were over 3 million people last year that visited the mall at Barnes Crossing. That's still a big number. They're pulling in record sales tax every year, so people still go to the mall. Now, does it need a facelift? Absolutely. A lot of people, right now want to go to the outdoor type malls where you can enter from the parking lot instead of going in. But, we need the mall to succeed. In 1992, it was a great thing. Of course, a lot of people thought, what in the world are they doing putting a mall up here? There's nothing else up here. Us up here is agricultural fields. It's been very successful. And then things have grown around it. So now you're getting, kind of congested, if you could say. And now, obviously, with the Target coming in, it's going to get more congested. But, just so many places you could put in a small area.
It really is more of a commercial real estate conversation than anything else. But you think about malls kind of writ large across the country, and they are a dying breed. They're not like they used to be. That was the economic hub of a lot of cities. And in so many places, they've gone into disrepair and they've rotted and you end up with empty space and you don't know exactly what to do with it. It doesn't feel to me, this is outside looking in, you tell me if I'm wrong here, it doesn't feel to me like that's an option for Tupelo because of what you just said, because of everything that has grown around it, with the mall itself kind of being like the hub of this wheel that's got spokes going in every direction.
That's right. And, most of the time when a mall fails, it's because everything around it fails. Downtown Tupelo in the late 70s, early 80s, the mall here died because downtown Tupelo was dying. Well, when they built the arena in the old mall, then the downtown Tupelo started revitalizing. And if you look what has happened in the last 25 years in downtown Tupelo, with everything growing and an arena instead of a mall, it's incredible, the transformation. But I believe that people will invest in the mall because of what is going around it. And like I said earlier, Target is just the first piece across the street from the mall. It's everything that Target brings to the area and the more people. And, when I talk to restaurants around town or downtown, and I say, look, I think there's another restaurant coming in. They say, I don't care. We need more people in a certain area. It will help our business. And I believe that's what will happen still with the mall area.
Well, and I mean, it's two distinct areas, but two distinct areas that are so important to Tupelo. And that downtown area that you mentioned a second ago, Main Street, Fair Park, the growth that has happened there. And I don't know, I'm going to say over the last 15 years, certainly the last decade, kind of the reinvestment in the Main Street downtown part of Tupelo has just been incredible. And if I heard you right, you kind of credited the arena for maybe beginning that renaissance for downtown. Is that right?
That's right. And, City Hall was built in 2002. The Fair Park revitalization is only about 22, 23 years old. And look what it's become. It was an old fairground, which had died out, needed to be done, something done to help Tupelo and downtown Tupelo, because I used to work for a real estate office, and Tommy Morgan was my boss. Well, Tommy invested in his office in Fair Park, and I asked him, I said, Tommy, why did you invest in Fair Park? Why the mall area is the one booming? He said, because in 50 years, downtown Tupelo will still be downtown Tupelo, and we don't know what other areas of the city will be. So you make that investment. He's made more investments along with some other developers. And, we're excited because we have acquired 17 more acres just south of Fair Park that we will continue to develop over the next 4 or 5 years.
You got time to hang with me for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Todd Jordan, Mayor of Tupelo. We'll talk a little bit more about that particular parcel and what those development plans may look like, and then where Tupelo and maybe Lee County to a larger extent fall into the economic development projects we're seeing at the state level. Is this an area that is ripe for more growth in the way that some other parts of the state have landed some big projects? That's coming up on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. You can join us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center, I'm Patty Steele. Venable Glass has 2 locations in Ridgeland and Brandon. Call 601-605-4443 for all of your glass needs. We're working a couple of accidents, I-20 in Robertson, I-20 and Highway 18, I-55 and East North Side Drive southbound. Expect delays in all of those areas. Traffic brought to you by River Trust Federal Credit Union. Call and take advantage of their limited time share certificate special, a 4.22% annual percentage yield on 30 and 60 months. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Hello, my name is John Merrill, the owner of Amada Senior Care. We're your local trusted advisor for senior home care. We provide experienced caregivers for your loved ones so they can remain in their home. Just like you would care for your loved ones, our employees provide assistance with their personal care needs. As your trusted senior advisor, I can help your family navigate the long-term care insurance process. Just call me, John Merrill with Amada Senior Care, for your free in-home consultation. 601 864-3752.
Mission, servicing Central Mississippi for over 60 years. Their ASE certified technicians offer dependable transmission services, a warranty, and wrecker services. Call Coleman Taylor today for all your transmission needs.
The best made-to-order lunch is right around the corner at 4th and Gold Sports Cafe. Eat in or carry out, DoorDash or Grubhub. Call 769-208-8283. That's 769-208-8283. Once again, 769-208-8283.
Hello, I'm Gary Jolly from the Tractor Store. LS Tractor understands your passion for the land, and just like you, LS Tractor is committed to excellence and superior products. LS Tractor comes with a long list of standard features that are unmatched by other brands and backed with the LS commitment to provide exceptional customer service and satisfaction. You get a lot more for your money with the LS Tractor. Come to the Tractor Store in Richland to experience the LS difference. The Tractor Store in Richland.
The cooperative gang's all here to help you be aware everywhere. Remember to keep everything at least 20 feet away from overhead power lines.
Planning to dig? Always call 811 first.
And if you spot a downed power line, stay far back and call 911 immediately. Make safety your priority. Visit BeAwareEverywhere.com for more safety tips. Brought to you by your friends at Yazoo Valley Electric.
This is Brian Haydad with Sports Talk Mississippi, the Magnolia State's #1 sports show. Get the show wherever you get your podcast.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi.
She don't like her eggs all runny. She thinks crossing her legs is funny. She looks down her nose at money. She gets it on like the Easter bunny.
Lance going deep cuts this morning. We've said Country Music Wednesdays, and now he is digging deep into the archives. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Todd Jordan is my guest, mayor of Tupelo, Mississippi. I thought I was interrupted. It sounded like you were trying to jump in there with something on the music from Lance.
No, my wife says every time we listen that y'all have the best intros of anybody ever. I mean, it's wonderful.
Hey, thank you, sir. Tell your wife she has great taste.
I always do because I like it too.
There you go. Well, there you go. I get zero credit for that. That is all. Other than the occasional, I call up the request line and like, hey, could we work this in? I got nothing to do with the music piece of it. You kind of dropped a big nugget. I guess people in Tupelo maybe knew this. You talked about the acquisition of another parcel there just south of Fair Park in downtown and plans for future development. Do you know yet what that future development use looks like? Is that for commercial or is that more for recreation?
It's going to be a mixed use, just like Fair Park. It's going to be some commercial with housing above some of the commercial, and then some single family homes and townhomes in the back of it. Fair Park was a good example. We had 25 lots available for purchase. As far as residential, they've all been sold. They've almost all been built on. That was the last phase. So it gives us a measuring stick to go to the public and say, hey, this is what we want to continue to do downtown. And the way we acquired that property, Richard, we owned part of the old Daybright Lighting building since 1964. We were getting only $800 a year lease off of that. So when we went into a new lease with someone that purchased the property, I knew he had part of the downtown area, so I just asked him, I said, is there anything you'd like to trade, or is there anything you have you'd like to trade for this property? And he said, well, I have that 17 acres. So we traded a $800 a year lease for 17 acres here in downtown Tupelo. It's a win-win for both of us.
Yeah, as somebody who was in the real estate profession for a long time, you didn't come across enough deals like that, did you?
Not for me. Now, I may have found them for somebody else, but I never had deals like that.
I understand that. Just sticking with the real estate conversation for a second, we know that nationally, affordable housing is a significant issue. I live in Oxford. Affordable housing is a significant issue. What about the housing market in Tupelo in terms of people that are moving in? You talked a little while ago about the difference in the actual population and the daytime population. Those are dramatically different, but as people are moving in for jobs, what are the opportunities that are available for them on the housing front?
Well, I think, a lot of it comes through our medical center. They have a big need for residents. They are investing in a $25 million project around the hospital for mixed use. They will have about 98 apartments, some single family homes, some commercial clinics, and some townhomes to help with those residents. And that's what we would like. We want those residents to get to Tupelo, like Tupelo, stay here and raise their families. So the hospital has a big need for housing, and those will be, market rate rent for those residents, which will be wonderful. But also, I think every thriving community is going to have an issue with affordable housing, because what's happened through the years is, you get these older neighborhoods where the residents start going to nursing homes, or they start dying out, and the children either live somewhere else or don't want to fool it, so they sell it to investors. Well, a lot of times those investors turn them into either government housing or low-income rental, and that just kills a neighborhood, Richard. So we've gone into some of these neighborhoods. We have a neighborhood development corporation that was established several years ago, and they're going into specific neighborhoods, buying up homes, putting deed restrictions on that they can never be rentals, and rehabbing these areas and turn them back over to homeowners. So we've done the West Jackson Street project, was the first one. We're in Park Hill now, buying up property, which is a transition between our higher income and lower income area. And it's just right for redevelopment. So we're fortunate we developed that several years ago, so they can go in some of these neighborhoods and turn them around. And if anybody ever is on West Jackson Street, Tupelo, they can see that project. And again, it's a measuring stick for us to go to the public and say, this is what we want to do in another area. And when you drive through there, the transformation that's happened in the last 15 years is unbelievable.
That neighborhood corporation, is that a private entity, or is that something that the city has an ownership stake in, or the city owns wholly? How does that work?
So what it is, it's a nonprofit that was developed, and the city, to get them started in a neighborhood, puts money in that corporation through our CDF, Community Development Foundation, because it is nonprofit, and it's a certain amount to start buying properties, but then when they start selling them, that money goes back into the neighborhood development corporation to continue doing houses in those areas.
Is that a unique setup, or is that happening in other places too?
I can't speak on that, Richard. I'm not sure. If it's not, it should be, because that kind of gives a separation between the city and the neighborhood corporation. We don't have to go in and buy the properties and rehab them ourselves. We have an entity that does that for us. And hey, next time you're up here, Richard, I would like to ride around with you and kind of show you what we've done over the last several years and what we're doing. That will give you a good indication on if you're in any other city or asking, you get a little more information.
Yeah. I'd love to see it. And can I bring my golf clubs when I come?
Come on. Well, now, I got to warn you, I'd be glad to play with you, but you'll be pretty disappointed in my athletic ability on the golf course.
Well, I've seen your athletic ability on display. It was a while back, but it certainly is in there. Visiting with Todd Jordan, mayor of Tupelo, Mississippi. Only a couple of minutes left. I want to hit on Tupelo High School for a second. I'm old enough to remember when the high school was constructed, and I grew up in Oxford. We talked about that a second ago, and you saw that facility, and you're like, what is that? I mean, it's massive and it's huge, and it was sparkling new, and the gym and the football stadium and everything. And you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I feel like there was a period after I don't know, maybe a decade and a half or so of the high school being there, where things dropped off a little bit. and it felt like maybe it was not moving in exactly the right direction. But for the last decade or so, it feels like Tupelo High School is a rocket ship in terms of athletics and facility upgrades and academics and things that are happening there. Is that a fair characterization, or am I off base on that?
I don't think there's any question. And it comes down to leadership, Richard. I mean, we have gone through several superintendents that may not have fit what the Tupelo mold to kind of keep moving forward. They just kind of wanted to keep things stagnant. The last couple, especially Dr. Piku, the last 4 or 5 years, has really come in with an open mind and said, look, we want to make things better. And 3 straight years we've had an A rating in the Tupelo School District. We've got the largest high school in the state, but it comes with a cost. I mean, you have to keep your facilities upgraded. You have to keep adding on. And if you look at the high school now, we need to add on some more. We need more facility. We could use another PAC center. We could use another this. So we're looking at acquiring property around the high school now, just 1, to protect our investment, and 2, for future expansion.
Final thing for you. I mentioned a second ago, we've seen some really big economic development projects happening at the state level. It feels like the governor is announcing a new one almost weekly. Those are going to different parts of the state. We've seen stuff on the coast. We've seen stuff in Madison County. We've seen stuff in Marshall County. Tupelo and Lee County working together. I think about some of the areas outside Tupelo, and I see land that is there that could be used. Is Tupelo in the market for one of these big development projects that we're seeing happen at the state level?
Well, last fall we announced the Lee Bear project. Lee Bear is a German company. The first initial investment is about $325 million out of the Hive. Now, the Hive is a new industrial park right outside the city on Highway 6, but it's in the Tupelo Public School District. The county, city, school district did a development agreement. I look for more developments like that and an expansion to Lee Bear in some time. So that's a great development. Average pay will be about $79,000 a year.
Outstanding. A lot of good things happening in Tupelo. Todd Jordan, the mayor, I appreciate your time. Always enjoy the visits, and look forward to seeing with my own eyes some of this development that you're talking about.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate y'all having me on this morning.
Absolutely. Wish you and your family and all the folks in Tupelo a happy 4th of July, and we'll talk soon. Todd Jordan, mayor of Tupelo, on Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Half an hour left with you. We're back on the other side of this timeout.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Lance, are we okay on the connection, or is it...
yeah, we're good now, man. Yeah, there's no problem.
Okay. I can handle it if it's a little shaky coming to me. I just want to make sure that we're good coming to you.
Oh, it sounds great, yeah.
I have like some magic pill to fix it, but anyway.
You got a Allen wrench
set, the conversation. Yeah, that's exactly what I need. We are just 8 days away from the annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon on Super Talk, Mississippi. It's coming up on the 10th of July. Today is the 2nd, right?
I think so,
right?
Yeah.
Math checks out.
Maybe
8 days away.
Yeah,
a week?
The end of the month.
Yeah. No, a week from Thursday. 13th annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon.
I'm just saying, we might already be to the 30th.
July 10th. Yeah, it does go fast. Every year, children across the state need a loving home, and many times those children are caught in unimaginable circumstances. That's why we need your help. On Radiothon Day, you will learn how Palmer Home for Children serves vulnerable children. It's a faith-based organization. They don't take any government money, And they rely on donations from people and businesses just like you. We want you to tune in. We want you to join us for the 13th annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon on July 10th. But we also would like you to do something between now and then. And that's not wait and flip the radio on that morning as just part of your normal routine like you do. Like, oh, yeah, they're at Palmer Home today. And then maybe think about whether or not it's a time to make a donation. We would love for you to think about that between now and then, where it is not just a reaction to something that touches your heart that day. We're great with that, and that is a massive part of what we do on that day. But we would love for you to consider, from a planning standpoint, making a donation, whether it is a one-time donation, it's something that is a recurring donation as part of what you do philanthropically. I think I've said this before, and I only say it as an example, not to pat myself on the back at all. But Jane and I have decided to be intentional about the giving that we do. And as opposed to just, oh, here's $20 here and here's $25 there for whatever organization that comes along. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those organizations. We decided that we think there is a way for us to give. We believe we have a responsibility to do that. And so we have identified 2 or 3 organizations that focus specifically on children, and that's where our resources are going to go. And so a few years ago, we decided that Palmer Home was going to be one of those organizations, and we went with the recurring donation. So, yeah, you can do it one at a time or monthly, but it's deducted on a monthly basis, whatever day it is, the 1st of the month or the 15th of the month, it comes out. And when you give that way, you have to make an adjustment perhaps to the way you live or the way you budget or whatever, but it's just part of it. It's part of what you do, and so it's like you're not having to, oh, where am I going to come up with the money for that, because you've already planned for it. And we would love for you to think about that. Your husband, your wife, your boss, whomever, maybe have a conversation the next week. Like, hey, do we have any sort of a matching program at work? Hey, do we want to think specifically about where we give and how we give? Palmer Home would be more than happy to talk to you about estate planning or any other type of giving setup that makes sense for you and makes sense for them. They got people that would be happy to talk to you about that. PalmerHome.org is the website. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert. Lance, in a minute on the rundown sheet there at 8:37, I want to play a clip from CNBC that's a couple of days old, but I think is worthwhile. We'll get to that in a minute. Just want to give you a chance to pull it up. But there was something else. Hold on, I've got it right here. On this, we talked earlier about the University of Pennsylvania and what they are doing in terms of trying to kind of make things right with Leah Thomas and what's a male, what's a female. That story is out there. Did you see this? There was a big music festival in Europe over the weekend. I think it was in the UK. And I'm just going to be honest. I don't know if it's villain or violin. The guy's name is Bob. He is a, I don't even know how you classify his music. I listened to it and I was like, well, I don't know what that is.
EDM,
rap
maybe?
or rock or EDM?
Yeah.
Is that
Mary
electronic
Wheaton's
disco something?
Electronic dance music, yeah.
Electronic dance music. Maybe that's what we're calling it. Do you know how to pronounce? Is it villain or violent?
I have no idea, but I know the story.
Or should we just go with Bob?
Let's go with Bob.
All right, so he is performing to a large crowd over the weekend, and he has a song that is extremely explicit in nature. And you have "Death to America" and "Death to Israel" chants. And, one of his lyrics is, from the river to the sea means something different to me. And, they want to take back power, blank them. It's a lot. Well, Bob had some tour dates that were coming up this summer and into the fall in these old United States of America. Gonna be a bit of a problem to make that tour stop. Because while free speech protections apply to U.S. citizens and residents, they do not apply to foreigners coming into our country. And so if you chant and incite the idea of death to America, the State Department has the right to say, we are revoking your visa, you may not come here. And that is exactly what has happened. Bob's U.S. visas have been officially revoked by the State Department. Those events will not be happening here this summer and into the fall. I guess it was more into the fall. He was, listen to this lineup. Starting in October, San Francisco, Portland, Spokane, Seattle, Salt Lake, Denver, St. Louis, Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, Boston, New York, Philly, Washington, Atlanta, Nashville, Dallas, San Antonio, San Diego, Los Angeles. That was all between the 21st of October and the 19th of November. So, Bob, see ya, pal.
He was hitting all the
new place to play.
Hitting all the Democrat hot spots, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have Tupelo and Calhoun City and Collierville and Hot Springs.
Yeah, Shibuya and Hot Coffee were not on there yet.
All on the tour list. They were not.
Tumsuba.
They were not. And you know what? People love to go, free speech, free speech, free speech. Yes, 100% free speech. You have the right to speak freely. You do not have the right to avoid consequence for your speech. And that seems to be lost in this. Yes, you have the right under the First Amendment, the protection under the First Amendment to speak freely. You do not have unlimited freedom from consequence. And to me, that's like the Democrat mind that is at work. Oh, you can't keep me from doing this. I have a right to free speech. Yes.
Yeah,
you do.
You don't let your
But that doesn't mean that when exercising your free speech right and you choose to light a police car on fire as part of your free speech right, that law enforcement doesn't have the ability to impose a free speech consequence. And that is, you are going to jail for the destruction of property. Yes, you had the right to speak freely. You did not have the right, though, to burn a police car or smash a window or deface private property or physically harm someone else. And so, yes, while you have the right to speak freely, like my kids have the ability, and I guess have the right, to tell me, their dad, that I'm a huge schmuck. That does not mean that they are free from consequence from that decision. It just doesn't. Take a time out. We will wrap it up with you. We'll play this clip from CNBC, and we'll get to some of your messages that are popping up on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. We are back right after this.
From the benefit.
You're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I saw the light I've been baptized by the fire in your touch and the flame in your eyes. I'm born to love again. I'm a brand new man.
Hit after hit after hit. That's all Brooks and Dunn did. They just churned out hits. Lance, I was texting with a buddy yesterday about the Big Beautiful Bill and its passage. And he said that I should say to you that make sure you get the Van Halen reference.
Which one?
To the vote total.
What was
5150
it?
5150 was the vote total.
Yeah, wore that album out. Goodness.
It was the 7th Van Halen studio album released in 1986. First album to feature Sammy Hagar as lead vocalist.
That's right. I had to have that one.
Replacing David Lee Roth.
Well, I was a big David Lee Roth and crew fan, so when Sammy took over, and it was like, what? That doesn't fit. So, I had to buy the record. And 5150 was a good one. I mean, they tore it up. But, I like the original lineup better. But I love Sammy Hagar. He stepped into a tough situation with an epic band and, rocked it, baby. Great hair, too.
Yeah. Hey, let's play that clip from CNBC that was on there from yesterday. This was a post on X of a segment on the Financial Markets channel where they were talking about not only market growth but collections, tariff-related collections for the United States.
Look how much we've been collecting in revenues. And I did this in part because Wilfred's here and he can talk about the UK trade deal. But just this is the monthly numbers. And they have gone up a lot. June is actually set for another big increase of $27 billion. That is money coming into U.S. coffers from tariffs. We are collecting a lot of revenue. So far, guys, $121 billion has flowed into the U.S. government since the start of the fiscal year. It's still a tiny portion of the overall revenues that the U.S. government gets, but it's increasingly a lot, especially we haven't seen it in terms of the consumer paying off higher inflation.
Like it's increasingly a lot.
Yeah, big word there.
24 billion in May, 27 billion in June, expecting it to continue to go up. 121 billion collected so far. That's money that we weren't getting. Now, the cynic in you might say, well, that's just money that's being taken from the taxpayer. I'm not sure that I look at that exactly the same way. But did you see that CBS and Trump have settled their lawsuit?
Oh, yeah. They wrote a big check.
You remember the defamation lawsuit? Well, I say defamation. I guess that's what it was. Paramount Global, the parent company of CBS, agreed yesterday to pay President Donald Trump a sum that could reach north of $30 million, according to Fox News Digital. Now, CBS disputes that amount. $16 million is the number, or $16 million is the number that everybody's talking about. Trump will receive $16 million up front to cover legal fees, costs of the case, and contributions to his future presidential library or charitable causes to be determined at the president's direction. Sources close to the situation told Fox News Digital that CBS has agreed to update its editorial standards to install a mandatory new rule. Going forward, the network will promptly release full, unedited transcripts of future presidential candidates' interviews. People involved in the settlement talks have referred to this as the Trump rule. You may remember the story, 60 Minutes doing an interview with Kamala Harris, and they asked a question, and she answered it, and it was like this incoherent, babbling nonsense. And they ended up taking part of another answer and applying it to the answer of that question in their post-production editing process, which is disingenuous at best. Probably has been going on a lot for a long time. Problem is, Trump team found out about it. They exposed it. They sued for it. The transcripts were released. And then we finally got what she actually said in answer to the question. It was collusion on behalf of CBS and 60 Minutes to make Kamala Harris sound better than she actually did in answering the question. There's no debating that. Now, here's what's interesting. CBS, in paying this $16 million to settle the suit, is not acknowledging any journalistic wrongdoing in the settlement.
That makes sense.
They're just going to leave you to your own.
You're just left to
your own thoughts on that.
I'd love to see him take a chunk of that money.
Unless you have nothing.
I'm sorry. I was just saying I'd love to see him take a chunk of that money and build a nice little reading room there at the Alligator Alcatraz, a little side room for him to read the Constitution, something like that,
You've had people coming out, by the way. Oh, it's a sad day for journalism. It's a sad day. Well, actually, it's not, because the public broadcast networks, the over-the-air broadcast networks who receive their licenses from the federal government have a responsibility to not make stuff up. This is not, prime time on Thursday night where we are watching a fictionalized drama. This is 60 Minutes, one of the iconic news programs in the history of the United States, who is, through video editing, shuffling answers around to make their interviewee sound better than they actually are. So it's not a sad day for journalism. It's actually a calling to the carpet of journalism that says, stop trying to manipulate election outcomes through editing. And by the way, the lady in charge, Redstone, she wanted this settled so she could sell the company for billions of dollars. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross. Talk to you tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.